Good morning, everyone. Jonathan Ho. I am, yeah, that's that's me. Uh, just so we can get back on track. Okay, so just I think to help, kind of explain how Salesforce has worked for the department or for plant quarantine itself. Just a little bit of what we do. So basically, we are the first line of defense for for goods coming into the state. So we regulate all those things. Um, that's the statutory definition. We also do inter-island movement, so basically between islands and also within the island, depending on the commodities. And then we also facilitate export. So we are a unique agency in that we are both the regulator and the promoter. Generally, those are two different agencies. We do both at the same time. So what we do is the importation regulation is basically the promotion, in that if you don't bring in the pests, the people who are doing the production don't need to deal with those. So it's inspect to protect. Hoping this will work. So yeah, real quick, we have offices across the state, and we do all our work at the port of entry, so basically at the airports or the seaports. The state is unique in that we don't have roadways going into the state, so you have a lot of control in terms of preventing things from coming into the state. We do have fully staffed 85 people, so when you looked at all the things that are regulated, 90% of the goods that are imported into the state, you have 85 people doing that work. So, technology to help facilitate those inspections is very important for us. Okay, oh, okay. Next slide, please. So, what do we regulate, or why do we regulate? Again, it's to prevent entry of pests, and that's the statutory definition of pests. We can't come to your office. We can't deal with your pesty coworkers, but because they are animals. But anyway, that's why we regulate, just to prevent those things from coming to the state. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of, I think, examples of what the staff do. So we have staff basically out in the field. They're inspecting air cargo, fruit and veg, plants, live animals, regulated commodities like you have like green coffee, for example. All of these things are regulated by inspectors. If you guys get your Harry and David stuff, your wreaths, you probably see purple stamps on them. That's all from us. For the folks that flew in, the ag form, that's us. Next slide, please. And then again, just a little bit more pictures. We have detector dogs. We do cut flowers. We do again live seafood. So pretty much all the live seafood you're eating, it's inspected. Pretty much all the fruit, vegetables you eat, inspected. We also do non-domestic animals. We also do plants. Non-domestic animals is basically things you don't see on a farm. Dogs, cats, goats, chickens, sheep, cattle, everything else, amoeba to zebra, we'll do them. Next slide, please. So just for a little bit of background, so the original system that we had is something called Invicta. It was brought in mid-2000s, right when I started with the department. And it was a custom system. It only did 3 components. It did import, it did permitting, and it did our pest hotline. All of our other functions, so export, inter-island movement, investigation, certified nurseries, anyway, all were external systems, all compartmentalized. Most of them were hard copy. And later on, we did an electronic manifesting system, which I'll do a little more into, which was incorporated into this system, but which was later taken out, and we kind of did a manual system. Next slide, please. So one of the need for service needs for upgrading the system were basically, the system was 15 years old by the time we kind of embarked on this project, and a lot of it was due to security. The system wasn't designed for all of the security stuff, and so we had to go about getting a new system. the system itself was very, very rigid. The data, it collected a lot of data, but there was really no way to get a lot of it out. All of the data was, all the reports were custom built by a vendor. We couldn't do anything internally. So you had to pay somebody to get a report, or make your own sets of information. So a lot of time there was double work to get some of the stuff out, to not have to pay somebody to deal with it. And then ultimately we did go through procurement, and then we did select Salesforce to develop our new system. Next slide, please. So in the new system, these are all the things we put in, and ultimately the goal was to maximize our limited manpower. Again, we have 85 people across the state to do all that work and do it in a way so that we can manage risk and still speed up or maintain the processes that are being done on a daily basis. The next slide, please. So I think this is probably a good picture, or a good set of pictures to help, I think, illustrate kind of the daily challenges. So I guess from left to right, this is a belt, and the belt moves about 1 mile an hour, and boxes are being placed on it. There's one inspector for this belt. This belt covers, I guess, Honolulu proper. And there's one inspector who's there for 3 hours. They're getting 8,000 boxes a day. There's also one for the rest of Oahu, and there's one for the rest of the state. So you have 3 guys doing 25,000 boxes a day on a daily basis. When you get Christmas, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, 40,000 or so. And then this is only one facility. Obviously, you have UPS, you have the post office, you have DHL, you have DHX, you have air cargo. So the need to be, the ability to collect a lot of information, a lot of unique information, was one of the things that we really tried to emphasize when we were building this system. And yeah, again, next slide, please. So once we got in, we had some challenges, and I think some of it was brought up in the past, in that we're ag people. I have a degree in entomology. We have no IT experience, so there was a lot of growth for us to speak the terminology, and then for the vendor to learn our terminology. So there was a lot of translation that we had to go through to figure out how to really get things going. Our data is very unique. We don't have an established data set for a lot of things. So for example, we do have certain things that are standardized, like we have lists of all the animals. We have lists of microorganisms, but the produce, for example, there is no standardized list. So we had to basically create one for every single commodity on Earth. We had to create one. And what added to some of the challenges that is risk. So specific varieties, specific locations, specific vendors, all can change that. So we had to be able to build a data set for all of that stuff. We really had to think long and hard about keeping our original data from Invicta, the prior system, and ultimately we chose not to do it. The original set of data was, for all intents and purposes, it would have taken us longer to fix it than it would to have built the system. So we're basically finding a way to archive that stuff so that we can use it if we need it, but yet basically start clean, and that really helped to facilitate the movement of getting everything going. We really had to rethink a lot of our processes internally in terms of what we do to really manage some of the limitations of the system. The system can't do everything that you hope it can, and sometimes we had to do a little bit of adjustment to manage that. And then training a lot of people. We have people all over the state, and a lot of folks even in the mainland. So finding ways to figure out how to train these people so that the system can work. Next slide, please. So the system that we use is called Kupono. And what we did is to, they talked about change management. One of the things that we did is we got the staff to basically name the system. We had a contest, we had an award, and basically everybody voted. And this is ultimately what the system was, the name that the system was selected. And for a regulatory agency, having a just or fair name is quite appropriate. Next slide, please. So a little bit about training. So because we have people all over the place, what we basically did is we used videos to manage the training. It gives, because staff are basically out in the field, their schedules are, very flexible. Having the ability to train as needed when they need it was the best way for us. So we basically have a portal. We created videos, and you can watch them as needed for each of the individual functions. We also were fortunate in that we did hire a permanent IT person after the system was implemented, and then we do have some staff that are quite good at it. So we basically have an in-house help desk in addition to what Salesforce can provide. So you're not having to play some of the language games with somebody from who's external. Next slide, please. One of the things that was part of it was a lot of what we did was basically pen and paper. We still do pen and paper for a lot of things, but particularly with permitting and e-manifesting, what we did is we built an online system, a portal. So basically people can provide us information, and then obviously we can provide them with the services without having to visit either mail or come into the office to provide us with stuff. It does have a billing component for some of the functions as well. Next slide, please. So most of the talk will be about eManifest. So basically what eManifest is providing us with literally an electronic manifest of goods before it arrives into the state. So currently right now, what happens is you will have something come, the transportation company is obligated to provide us with notification, and then we send inspectors out to do the inspections. So there is a little bit of a delay, obviously, and there's really no way to know what's there until you get there. So there's a lot of uncertainty. So with this system, we've placed the onus on the importers to provide us that information ahead of time so that we can better decide how to utilize our limited manpower. And you can assess the risk based on all the goods, and they get the benefit of not having to wait for us to have an inspector deployed to that particular site. So next slide, please. So basically on the portal, there is an online component for the users. They register with us, and we do some training with them to make sure that all of their goods match our list because it's unique. And especially with produce, one of the things is each company has their own way of naming everything. So like russet potato, potato russet, brown russet potato. Russet, yeah, anyway, as many options as you can have. So what we had to do basically is have them give us everything that they're importing, and then we're translating everything that they have to our data set. If it doesn't fit, we'll add it. And then we basically work with them to make sure everything works before they get in. We don't just go, congratulations, you can log in and try to figure it out and just get all these errors. So next slide, please. So once they submit it, what the staff will see is something like this. And basically on the bottom, you have all those green dots. So it's a very easy way for the staff to determine if these things are high risk or not, and they deserve further inspection and to be held. So particularly with sea cans, you're getting 5 to 7 days on the water. So you have some time to manage this and to look at it, and then the importers can know what they need to do for us, because we're going to be able to tell them 2 to 3 days ahead of time. Air cans is a little difficult. You have maybe 5 hours. So a lot of times especially the early morning stuff, we're getting the container almost the same time as it arrives. But basically the list is dynamic. So well, it's not dynamic. We can change it manually based off of risk. So staff can uniformly deal with things. A lot of times in the past it was, have you seen it before? Have you seen the risk? So a lot of, and with such a huge commodity load, it was very hard to ensure that everybody was doing the same thing. So now you have everybody seeing the same set of information and being able to make the same decisions all the time. Next slide. And then after they do the review, this is actually just a screenshot of the processing. And basically, after you do the processing, the system will generate an automatic notice for the importer, which is on the next slide. So basically, yeah, so the importers are going to get something like this, and also the transportation company. So that indicates what they can or should do. The data is all fake, so but ultimately, every single shipment, so that and for us, intentionally, it's a container. Every container will get one of these every time. So we're doing a couple hundred of these on a daily basis, and we haven't had too many problems with it. Next slide, please. And then kind of the last thing, we also do permitting. So one of the good things about this system is the system's ability to manage our permits. Our permits are unique in that they're all customized. Every permit, it basically goes through a public process, and they're based off of the use and the species. So you have every animal on Earth. Based on the use, you can have a different set of conditions. So we have hundreds of different permits, maybe thousands, but the system is able to accommodate it, and we're able to really speed up the generation of the permits. The old system was a lot of, I would say, hammer and chisel to really get out the permits, and finding an old permit or amending a permit was nightmarish. And this really, really helps us to really speed up. You have everything already digitized. You can provide everything to the stakeholders, and you don't have to do any touching of paper. There's no paper, and it's really sped up in a lot of things for our staff. But yeah, next slide, I think, is the last one. If you need to see me, I can give you guys a little bit more information. I just wanted to kind of get through it so we can get back on time. If you have any questions, I can answer them real quick.